The Israeli public and families of hostages are still waiting for a ceasefire hostage deal to come to fruition. But intense IDF ground and air forces operations in Gaza continue over the weekend. Several soldiers were injured and other families are now laying their loved ones to rest after they were killed in the enclave as Hamas continues to lead their fight with planting explosives and ambushing IDF soldiers. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the details.
Over the weekend, IDF operations included the dismantling of key terrorist sites of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Dozens of terrorists were killed and over 250 terror targets struck. Ground forces are continuing to operate in Shejaiya and Zaytun in Gaza City, locating and dismantling explosives and observation posts belonging to Hamas and used for ambushes against Israeli troops. The IDF is focusing now in areas of Bet Hanun in northern Gaza, creating conditions for Israeli residents to be able to return to their homes in nearby border communities. Last night, dozens of fighter planes struck over 35 Hamas targets in Beit Hanun, including strikes on underground Hamas infrastructure in the area. The sites include weapons storage facilities, anti-tank missile launchers, terror cells, sniper posts, booby-trapped structures, and tunnel networks. The Army announced that 2 soldiers were wounded in separate incidents, and deaths were reported at aid distribution sites. 5 IDF divisions are currently operating in Gaza, dismantling terrorist infrastructure both above and below ground. Israel and the EU have reportedly reached agreement to boost Gaza aid that will include more trucks, more crossings, and more routes. According to the deal, Israel will open several new aid corridors, including through Egypt and Jordan. Israel will allow bakeries to reopen and ensure security for aid workers to repair vital infrastructure. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas called the steps significant. The announcement by Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar and Kallas included measures that would be put into place in the coming days with the understanding that the aid and scale must be delivered directly to the population and steps will be taken to prevent the aid from reaching Hamas. Over the weekend, Israel transferred some 150,000 liters of fuel into Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing. Kojat confirmed that the fuel was sent following a political directive. Kallas called the move a significant step to improve aid distribution in the Gaza enclave.
Thank you, Steve, for that report. And Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to meet with a small group of Israeli ministers today to discuss one of the points of contentions in this current negotiation with Hamas to reach a ceasefire hostage deal. Now, the meeting will focus on the approval of new maps regarding a partial IDF withdrawal, according to media reports. Meanwhile, Netanyahu said in an interview on American television this weekend he is confident that a deal will be reached to free the hostages in Gaza, although the Prime Minister left Washington, D.C. without a concrete deal in motion in the enclave. On Saturday, Palestinian officials told the BBC the hostage and ceasefire negotiations were on the verge of collapse after no significant progress was made in Doha over the last few days. All of this as thousands of Israelis took to the streets in Tel Aviv Saturday night to protest for the release of the hostages and an end to the war. Released hostage Eli Sharabi spoke to the crowd, in addition to Israeli actress Noah Tishby and the parents of released hostages. And joining us now to discuss the developments on the ongoing talks between Israel and Hamas and the war inside of the Gaza Strip is Rich Outzen, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
Rich, given your work in military and diplomatic capacities in the region here, how do you assess what's going on with these hostage and ceasefire negotiations in Doha? We know Netanyahu returned from D.C. without a concrete breakthrough. Tell us what this signals.
Well, I think it signals definitely that both sides have dug in their heels on certain key sticking points. And I think we were talking earlier in the broadcast about those key sticking points, which are really 3 at this point. Hamas is demanding a full IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. They want to continue to control or to re-establish control of the distribution of aid. And then they want a promise of a ceasefire, what they would call a permanent ceasefire. Of course, Israel's position is pretty firm on these points, that the political economy represented by Hamas controlling aid was part of the problem that led to the war to start with. and that IDF has to retain the ability to act if there are further violations. So these are pretty big differences, and I think what we can infer is that the Trump administration, indirectly through Steve Witkoff and with the assistance of Qatar and Egypt, is continuing to try to thread the needle to find a deal that splits these two positions. But certainly Hamas senses that a ceasefire that weakens its hold on power, which is eminently in the interest of the United States and Israel, would be the end of its political campaign to control Gaza and fight Israel. So they're gonna hold very tenaciously to their positions, I think.
Right. You mentioned those points of contention being the humanitarian aid and where the IDF would possibly stand after a 60-day ceasefire. But specifically, I also want to reach how they could get to a common goal. Who will, what will it take? Which side will have to come down or come up to match what is needed to get to the finale here?
Well, it's the unfortunate case that the Hamas leadership seems willing to inflict almost ceaseless suffering on the Palestinian people in order to pursue their goals. So at the end of the day, though, the power ratio here clearly favors Israel and the West. While there has been, or since October 7th, 2023, there has been significant, resistance in certain sectors of Europe and the United States to Israel's military campaign. The truth is, the IDF and the public support in Israel for it continues to be very strong. So I think in the end, the pressure on Hamas, both from the international community and from the Palestinians who are suffering so much from the continuation of this war, is going to force them to accept things like a technocratic government, at least an interim one in Gaza, and some withdrawal of their fighting forces. I think in the end, it's going to be Hamas that gives more than Israel in this, because they don't hold really the cards that they might have once, for instance, when Iran was a much more powerful patron for them than they are now.
Right. And specifically about Hamas, what will it take for them to surrender? We know that the IDF wants them to disarm, to get out of the Gaza Strip. What will it take at this point? We know that the people negotiating this deal for Hamas are, in fact, inside of Doha, Qatar. They are not inside of the Gaza Strip, seeing how these Palestinians are suffering at the hands of this terror group that is ruling this enclave here. What will it take for them to step down?
Well, there's two theoretical possibilities. The first would be that at some point they make a rational calculus or calculation, rather, that they can't achieve their political goals through continued armed resistance. That, however, is contrary to the ideological nature of the organization. The second is that they simply lose the ability to fight as an organized fighting force anymore. And when that happens, they'll lose control of the small units that they still have operating out of tunnels and other infrastructure. I think that's a realistic goal. I do think that the United States, Israel, and Europe should continue to push for a political horizon that involves an alternative to Hamas. The Palestinians have to say, we have a better way forward than this. But at the end, it's going to be the destruction of the remnants of Hamas fighting power that's going to open the door for that political solution. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
We know that, of course, there have been other officials. You mentioned Steve Witkoff's involvement. He has, here in Israel, has been on a pedestal for getting these hostages out alive, giving them a second chance at life. I want to talk about Qatar, what role they play in something like this in terms of these talks right now. What's your take on that?
Well, Qatar is an interesting mediator and an interesting actor in this scenario, because they have largely, at the request of the United States, for many conflicts, not just the current one in Gaza, but also, for instance, when the United States was still in Afghanistan, Qatar has taken on the role of mediator and a host for talks. This leads to a lot of criticism. Frankly, many people in Washington conceive of Qatar as soft on terrorism, or too willing to talk to the bad guys, and somehow culpable in the actions of those bad guys. But my view is that the Qataris are actually a pretty agile mediator, both with the provision of aid to the Palestinian people and the search for a political solution in the Strip. They've sort of been a very necessary interlocutor. So I tend to see that they are savvy and agile as a diplomatic force. I also think they're willing to do the sorts of things in terms of interacting with groups like the Taliban and Hamas that most other countries can't and won't do. So I think of them as indispensable. But of course, that comes with a price in terms of reputational risk in Washington and elsewhere. In the end, though, the United States, to solve again, both the current conflict and some others in the region really benefits from having an ally like Qatar, and Qatar is undoubtedly an ally of the United States, and I think that's been to the benefit of the search for peace.
Yeah, and I think everyone here in Israel, especially those affected, want to see Qatar have a way in to end this war. And not only that, release these hostages still in captivity. We know in terms of the ongoing war inside of Gaza, the IDF continues to conduct intense airstrikes and ground operations inside of urban areas. Just this weekend, more details emerged that an IDF soldier was actually ambushed and almost kidnapped by Hamas terrorists during combat the other day. Tell me, why is Hamas resorting to this type of tactic now on the ground inside of Gaza?
Well, they've lost the ability to operate as larger formations, platoons or companies or battalions like a conventional military force that they probably had at the outset of the operation. So what they do have now is small sort of terror-sized squads that can do what you would call a snatch and grab like that. They understand the political and strategic value, really, because obviously Israel puts a great premium on the lives of its hostages. And for that reason, I think the ability to grab another couple of hostages, if they can, strengthens their negotiating position and drags out or draws out the period of time they have before they are facing sort of the collapse of their armed resistance. So to me, it's a very logical evolution for a non-state actor and for a terror or quasi-terror organization. This is, at the end of the day, just a reprisal of what they really did with the October 7th attacks. It's trying to gain humans as bargaining chips for their political goals. So it's sort of dirty business. But you wouldn't expect anything different from Hamas, I suppose.
Right. We know 50 hostages are still in captivity at this time. 20 of them are believed to be alive. Rich Houghton, thanks so much for being with us today.
And thank you.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Israeli-Hamas war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Israel Bonds pledges to ensure Israel thrives and flourishes. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
And a deadly confrontation in the Sumerian town just north of Ramallah has left 2 Palestinians dead. One of them is a Palestinian American from Florida. Israeli authorities are investigating as the events of what took place are caught in a gray area. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has the details.
Israeli authorities are investigating a deadly clash in the Sumerian town of Sinjil that left 2 Palestinians dead. The incident took place Friday evening after what the IDF called a rock-throwing attack by Palestinians on Israeli civilians. 2 Israelis were lightly injured near Sinjil, north of Ramallah. The situation escalated into wider violence involving fringe Jewish youth and Palestinian residents. The IDF said the confrontation included arson, vandalism, and physical assaults, prompting security forces to deploy riot control measures. The Palestinians killed were identified as 20-year-old Palestinian-American Saifullah Musalet, also known as Saif, and 23-year-old Hussein al-Shalabi. Musalet was reportedly beaten during the fighting. Al-Shalabi was shot and later found under a tree. Palestinian sources claim Musalet died before reaching the hospital, saying paramedics were blocked from reaching him. His family in Florida is calling on the United States to investigate. The Benjamin Regional Council says the violence began when dozens of Palestinians attacked Jewish shepherds near Ateret, injuring 2 and torching equipment, including a Bible. They claim far-left activists helped coordinate the assaults and that a gas canister hidden by rioters exploded near troops. The councils called the fatalities a, quote, fabricated blood libel, saying the deaths were reported hours after the event had ended. The IDF says it is reviewing the incident with police and security agencies. So far, 6 people have been arrested, including 2 Israeli civilians and an IDF reservist. Footage shared online shows masked individuals arriving in a vehicle with clubs. Other videos show mourners carrying Musalet's body through the streets. The incident comes amid a surge in violence since Hamas's deadly attack on Israel last October. Israeli forces say they've arrested around 6,000 wanted Palestinians since then, including more than 2,350 linked directly to Hamas. While rights groups cite a rise in extremist attacks, Israeli officials say they continue to crack down on all forms of violence. This investigation is ongoing.
And turning now to Lebanon, where an IDF drone strike over the weekend killed a Hezbollah anti-tank missile operative in South Lebanon. The army said that it targeted Mohammed Shoaib for his involvement in plotting attacks on Israeli civilians and playing a key role in smuggling weapons from Iran to Lebanon and Judea and Samaria. The latest targeted killing follows the killing of Quds Force Command Qasem al-Husseini last week and is part of the order to strike all trying to execute terror attacks before they can strike. Now, the latest attacks came after the Lebanese president said that the normalization between Israel and Lebanon is not in the cards right now. While ruling out normalization of relations, the president said Lebanese policy is to bring an end to the long-standing conflict with Israel. And heartbreaking news, a Filipino caregiver who was injured after an Iranian ballistic missile hit her home during the 12-day war in Rehovot has died, according to the Philippine embassy here in Israel. 49-year-old Leah Mosquera died this morning after she underwent several surgeries and weeks in the ICU at Shamir Medical Center. She was about to turn 50 years old later this month. And more dramatic reports are coming out from the recent 12-day war between Israel and Iran. According to reports in the Israeli media, an F-15 fighter malfunctioned above Iran amid the war, barely averting an emergency landing. Channel 12 reports that an aerial refueler reached the jet deep inside of Iran, fixed the fuel tank issue, and the mission was completed safely. A backup plan was reportedly in place, which the F-15 would have attempted to land in a neighboring country. And in another report, the Iranian president was reportedly injured in an Israeli airstrike during the war. The injury to the president's leg reportedly took place when jets hit a building housing a National Security Council meeting. The alleged attack came just 4 days into the 12-day Israeli air campaign, and last week the president told U.S. commentator Tucker Carlson that Israel tried to kill him. And IDF soldiers now have a place to rest after they serve in the Gaza Strip. It's a place to spend time with each other, barbecue, and relax before transitioning back into normal life. It's called the House of Dekel, located on the border of Gaza, and is honoring a fallen IDF soldier who gave his life for protecting people on October 7th. The incredible initiative was possible only because of the work Nahama and Hatzalah. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Less than 10 miles away from the Gaza border with Israel sits Moshav Patish, and just recently, the Dekel House was unveiled to the public in memory of Captain Dekel Suissa, a fallen hero who gave his life to protect Israelis on October 7th. Dekel was a beacon of happiness to those around him. Dekel took these skills with him to the United States, where he volunteered with Jewish American communities together with the Jewish Agency, delaying his military service to first help Jews abroad before protecting the Jews of Israel. Tragically, his story came to an end on October 7th. When fighting valiantly in the Gaza border communities, Dekel fell in battle.
Dekel was young, but spiritually, I think he was a flag to everyone. As you can all see and feel, it's kind of an happy and something that we cherish for Dekel. But we don't forget the cause, and we don't forget the action of Dekel and all the combat soldiers and all the soldiers and all the IDF.
In an incredible initiative by Nechama and Hatzalah, the Dekel House will serve as a resting spot for soldiers coming out of Gaza after fighting terror head-on, just like Dekel.
So we are here in the home of Dekel. We dedicate this house for him. This house, every day, we have soldiers from the border come and to this retreat. to have a few hours of calm in the pool, in the jacuzzi, in the sauna, playing ping pong behind me, or rest, or a good shower, a good meal in the barbecue before they're going back to the front line.
In an event hosted at the new Dekel house, friends and family of Dekel came together to honor his memory.
So the house has the name of Dekel. So every soldiers that come here, they know about his story. And the family also has a meaning, a purpose to continue life.
And since the 7th of October, one of our goals is to support our soldiers in the front line. We're doing a lot of action, a lot of operation for that, even food for hot meals inside Gaza Strip, either like a bulletproof vest and helmets for them, supporting them, and everybody's doing what we can, and that's what we can. We can support them from the home front.
Nechama and Hatzalah recognize the need to support our soldiers, and now the House of Dekel will serve as a beacon of strength to all those who fight to protect the state of Israel.
And in some exciting news, Israel Aerospace Industries, together with SpaceX, successfully launched Israel's most advanced communications satellite into space. Let's now go to ILTV's Devo Klein, who can give us more information regarding this remarkable milestone. Devo?
Absolutely, Shush. So just this morning, the launch of the Dror 1 took place and was a scorching success. Now, Israel has quite a few satellites in space, but this one marks a massive milestone as it's a communication satellite. And the images emerging from the launch are absolutely incredible. Let's take a quick look.
2, 1, ignition, engines full power, and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go commercial GTO-1.
Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the commercial GTO-1 flight. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you saw and heard the call out for successful landing of our Falcon.
Incredible stuff. And Shush, this satellite, according to the Israel Aerospace Industries, is designed to meet the satellite needs of the state of Israel for the next 15 years. So how exactly did this launch work? Let's break it down really quickly. The launch was conducted using SpaceX's Falcon 9. It's an impressive launch vehicle that works with a two-stage liftoff. Now, the bottom section of the rocket is the first stage. It's also called the booster, which uses 9 Merlin D1 engines that can carry the Falcon and the attached satellite through the thickest parts of the atmosphere. After the first stage is complete, the rocket will tilt just slightly to allow for horizontal velocity. This is called a gravity turn, and the reason for this is because getting into orbit, it's not just about, going straight up. It's also about accelerating so fast that it just never lands. And after stage 1 is completed, the engines will shut off. The lower body separates from the rest of the rocket. This shutting allows for the payload to travel faster without extra weight. The second stage is powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine. The payload fairing protects the satellite during its trip. Once the fairing halves are removed from the payload, the satellite can sit comfortably in orbit. This is a big milestone for Israeli aerospace, but it also boosts cooperation with SpaceX. So it seems that no matter the security situation, Israel's wars and more, we're still pushing the boundaries of what is possible, boosting innovation and tech in an ever-growing sector. Shush, back to you.
Amazing report, Devo. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 22 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And tomorrow we'll see sunny skies alongside hot temperatures, seeing highs of 33 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. You can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Shosh Bedrosian. Thanks so much for watching.